Great. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you've had a good day so far. My name is Sisha Maharaj. I'm part of the Devant team, and I'll be doing this session for you on financial basics and financial literacy to help you understand how to build and grow your credit as well as your financial literacy skills in Canada. So before we start, I would love to invite you to put into the chat any questions that you may have or goals that you are interested in learning about as I enter a few more people into the room. I'm also going to put up a poll here. Would love to hear your feedback on your financial goals as a newcomer. So welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Sisha Maharaj. I'll be your facilitator for this session. This is part of Get Hired at Home, and I'm pleased to walk you through the financial literacy session today. Please let me know, what are your financial goals as a newcomer? I have quite a bit of really interesting and useful content to share with you, and I'd like to make sure I can customize the session for your preferences and your needs. So I'll just give maybe a couple more minutes for the session poll. Wonderful to see all of you joining. I'm just going to be letting individuals into the room. So welcome for those who have joined. Please feel free to start our poll, which is financial goals for newcomers. I'm going to end the poll in maybe just 10 seconds so that we can share a little bit about some of the goals of everyone in the room today. So I'm going to end the poll. Looks like the majority of individuals are saving for future investments or big purchases, building your credit history in Canada, saving for tuition, and managing daily expenses, including managing your housing, food, etc. expenses. So I'm just going to share this for those of you that have filled it out. Thank you so much. So let's start. I'm going to bring up our slides here. Great. So a little bit about me, a little bit about my background. So welcome, everyone. I'm a senior consultant here with Devant. I also have about 30 years of experience in financial services, entrepreneurship, human resources, and higher education. My mission is to make employment and mortgage solutions accessible, guiding clients through the process to achieve financial stability and home ownership. I am just going to let a few more people in. I see there's a couple more admitted here. Give me a second. So welcome, everyone. I was just giving my introduction. My name is Sisha Maharaj. I was just sharing that I'm very passionate about financial literacy and empowering newcomers, women, youth, and those who need a second chance in life to prosper financially. I guide my clients to save money and increase their income earning potential, both sides of the bank balance sheet, earning money through careers, as well as managing your debt and your credit. I am a licensed mortgage agent and financial life professional. And as I mentioned, I'm very passionate about helping you build your success in Canada financially and looking to empower newcomers to build strong financial foundations in this new country, Canada. So as a background, here is a little bit about what I'd like to share with you in the next hour. Please mention in the chat if there are areas of this agenda that interest you the most. Number one, I want to talk a little bit about your money mindset, because that's really important in how you make choices and how you build your credit in Canada. Number two, banking in Canada for students. I'll give you some tips, as well as how to manage your spending and prepare a realistic budget. Number four is how to manage your credit and how to pay off debt. And then finally, if we have time, I'd love to talk to you more about ways to save and how to protect yourself from fraud. This is an ongoing conversation, and I'll be happy to continue this conversation in case we run out of time. So welcome to those of you who are just joining us. This session will be recorded, and you'll be able to receive a copy of the webinar at the end. We've got a lot of good information, so let's start right away. Benefits of gaining financial skills. So you're here today, which is really important, and you're investing in building your financial skills. In addition to controlling your financial future and achieving your life goals, it's really important to build financial skills in Canada, to be a smart consumer, to reduce stress, sleep better, but also to be confident that you can manage your finances effectively to achieve your long-term goals. For those of you who are students, and feel free, as I mentioned, to introduce yourself. We are a small group, so it'll be nice to connect with you and to hear more about your questions and your interests. So for student banking tips, number one, is track your spending. There are a lot of great tools. Each bank has online tools where you can set up a budget. I know I set one up recently. It gives you alerts. It gives you tips. It also helps you with saving. But at the same time, you can see over the month view, 3-month view, or 6-month view, where are you spending your money? In addition to that, if you don't have it set up on your online banking right now, you can do that very easily. But I also have an Excel spreadsheet that I can share with you after this session. So please feel free to let me know if you're interested in staying in touch. And if you'd like the Excel spreadsheet, that again would be something that you could set up to plan ahead. But I do encourage you to set up an automated tool through your bank so that this way you can see real time how you're spending your money and where you can possibly save. Also, in terms of banking tips, I think it's really important to be aware of emotional spending and peer pressure. And this is where I talked a little bit about your money mindset. You really want to take a look at what is your relationship with money? When do you spend money and what are your goals? So, for example, you may see your friends purchasing different items, or you might notice that, if you're stressed out for an exam or for other reasons, you might go and shop. So what you want to note for yourself is, when are you shopping? Is it a need or is it a want? And you want to help yourself and maybe create an accountability buddy, which could be that online budget, as I mentioned, or it could be also an individual that you work with to stay accountable for the budget that you've set for yourself. Now, in terms of finding more money, I definitely will be sharing some tips on how to find student perks, bursaries, and scholarships. Many of our employers who are participating today at Get Hired at Home offer scholarships, student bursaries, as well as student perks. So I would encourage you to research and apply for these student perks and bursaries and scholarships. A lot of these employers have banking for students and banking for newcomers. One of our sponsors, who sponsored a number of our events this year, actually has a banking perk for newcomers to Canada. If you take a look on our website under events, you'll get to see the newcomer banking perks. There are a number of points that you can use to spend. There are also cash rewards and many other perks as well that you can take advantage of. I would also encourage you to visit your school's financial website and your student aid office. Sometimes there are scholarships and bursaries available for you just by your program or just by your school. I actually went onto a few of the websites from our clients, and I noticed that they do post a lot of these things in advance, so you can really take advantage and apply. Some of these actually go unclaimed. So I would encourage you to schedule some of your time to research on your school's financial website and your student aid office and reach out, and also to share with your friends and all of your peers what are some of the other student aid that they have applied for, or bursaries. Sometimes you have to apply and sometimes they're given to you automatically. So there's a lot of free money out there, and it could be based on leadership. It could be based on community work. It could be based on financial need. It could also be based on your grades. So there are many different criteria that you can take advantage of to get free money. In addition to that, some scholarships include a scholarship and then an internship, which gives you an opportunity to earn money yourself. Working during your scheduled break or throughout your different times that are eligible based on your work permit. And then finally, let's talk about learning to be a smart consumer in Canada. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. So let's go into budgeting. So the parts of a budget, there is the income, the money that you earn, and then there are expenses, money that you spend. The difference between the two, so if you earn more money than you spend, then you have a surplus. If you spend more money than you earn, then you have a deficit. So let's talk more about that. So I talked about, knowing what you spend, which is keeping your receipts, keeping a log, or going online to make sure that you are understanding where is your money going. This is really important. First step, so that this way you can be a smart shopper, smart spender, and also help yourself, before you make decisions that are emotionally driven or maybe unplanned decisions if you're on a budget. One of the steps that I love to do is make a list of irregular expenses. So for example, are there online purchases that you're not familiar with? Did you buy something and they charged you twice? Do you see like an online purchase there for something that, is international? Maybe that you had a reoccurring expense that you did not authorize. So one of the things that you want to do is make a list of expenses that you are not familiar with or that you do not understand. You also want to review your bank and loan statements. Take a look and make sure that the charges that are coming out of your bank account are charges that you understand and that you have authorized. You want to total your expenses at the end of the month. And I would recommend tracking your spend for at least 3 months. This way you can have an idea of, how do I spend in a semester? And am I in a surplus or am I in a deficit? Welcome to those that are joining us. My name is Tisha Maharaj, a senior consultant with Devant, and I'm here facilitating the financial literacy session. Please feel free to put your questions in the chat. I will come off of SlideShare and address your questions as well. This is an example of a monthly income budget. Some of the things that you want to think about that are income coming into your bank account. So this is positive cash flow. Maybe you have an on-campus part-time job. So as an international student, you are eligible, to work on campus. You are eligible as well to work off campus part-time, up to 20 hours a week currently. And you may also be eligible to work full-time during regular scheduled breaks. For example, if you're in a co-op program or if you have a post-grad work permit. So you need to make sure that you are working within the eligibility of your work permit, and you can talk to an immigration lawyer or an immigration consultant at your school. We also have a number of immigration sessions. We have one later on today where you can understand and ask questions about your immigration eligibility. There are also bursaries that I mentioned that can be given by your program, that can be given by your financial aid office. There are on-campus student competitions. In my past, when I worked, at the university, there were a number of competitions where you could win as an individual or you could win as a team. And international students are eligible for most of these on-campus student competitions. There are also research awards. So there are many different types of ways you can earn income in addition to working full-time or part-time as a student. So I want to encourage you to take a look at that. Make a list of all of the potential monthly income. Then you want to include other sources of income like gifts, tax credits, investments, student loans, or money from family. So you want to total up all of your monthly income. Then step number 2, you want to make a list of all of your fixed expenses. That includes housing, transportation. I actually put in there the TTC student pass, so you have discounts as students that I want to encourage you to take advantage of. There could be other loan payments that you have, insurance, utilities, and just make sure when you're paying your rent that you make sure you understand, does it include your utilities or not? Also telecommunications like cable, internet, telephone, and cell phone bills. Your food on campus, your food off campus, tuition, student clubs, immigration fees, or other costs as well. So as I'm sharing some of these examples for you, I'd like to encourage you to maybe make a note of some of the fixed expenses that you already know about. And if you're not sure of your fixed expenses, maybe you can make a list like this. And as I shared earlier, I do have an Excel spreadsheet that I can share with you. So you can document what are your fixed expenses or inquire about your fixed expenses. If you have family members that are paying this for you or you're not sure, I do want to encourage you to investigate this further so you have an idea of how much money you need and if there's any extra that you could be saving. Now let's talk about variable and irregular expenses. So I'm not going to go through each one, but as you can see, I would say a lot of the variable expenses that students or newcomers are talking to us about is eating, food, and household expenses, but as well as sort of personal care expenses as well. So you want to make sure that you keep an eye on your variable expenses. These are expenses that change. They change and you can control these expenses. So some of the things you want to do is make sure that you're managing your variable and irregular expenses so that you can try to save money or invest extra money if you can. So the difference of your total monthly income minus your total monthly expenses is your net surplus, which means you have more income than expenses, or a net deficit if you have more expenses versus income. Just going to take a moment to check in the chat. Hi there, Wesley. Yeah, feel free to introduce yourselves to your colleagues and friends. If you have questions or tips on where you like to save, any apps that you use to save as well, please feel free to share and connect. It's always great to get more resources and sharing knowledge in this room as well. So let's move on to managing your cost of living and being a smart consumer. So I suggested this a little bit earlier, but please do check your bills. Check all of your bills. They get emailed to you or they get sent to you via bill mail. Please check your bills, check your credit cards. One of the things that I'd like to encourage you to do as well is to try to negotiate better plans. Make sure that you're on the right banking plan. As an international student and newcomer, you might be able to take care or take advantage of free banking. Looking at your telephone bill, your cell phone bill, are you using free international calling? Are you using the internet calling lines that you can? As I mentioned about food costs, there are different types of groceries in Canada that have different costs. So are you shopping at Loblaws or No Frills? Or are you shopping at, more expensive, high-end grocery stores? And if your budget allows, then that's your choice. But you want to make sure that you are reviewing your grocery and your food costs because they can add up very, very quickly. I talked about using student perks, free banking and points, applying on time for bursaries and scholarships, and just considering whether you really need to buy that latest high-tech gadget or if you can share and wait on some of those purchases. Checking your bills for overcharges is really important. A lot of students I see when I talk with them, they are actually incurring late fees or interest or penalties. So I want to make sure that you get to errors before it's too late. Oh, I see Keith has raised your hand. Feel free to unmute, Keith, if you've got a question.
Yes, Sariska, indeed, I have a question about the Steve.
And great. So I just started back the recording because we had some questions there. Thank you so much for your questions around saving on banking fees. So we'll just move on. Feel free to add more questions and I will get to them in between the presentation. So I talked about negotiating better plans, calling your service provider, asking how you can save money, how can you cut back on your monthly bills? Do you have a better plan or deal for me? What are the time frames? If you're in a contract, making sure you understand your contract and what happens after that expires. Maybe you can bundle services to save money. So for example, I'm sure some of you are already doing this, but bundling your telephone bill, your cable bill, and your internet bills, making sure you avoid interest and late payment penalties is really important. We talked at length about reducing banking fees. The one thing I didn't talk about was the bank machine. So ATM stands for the automatic teller machine or the ABM, automatic banking machine. So if you see these fees, it could be because you're using a bank that's not your original bank, and you could be charged banking fees for this. So you also want to take a look at how you spend your money, how do you use Interact, etc., and making sure that you're choosing a bank account that aligns with your spending habits and your convenience. Maybe taking a look at what bank machines are available on campus or near your home or near your work office, and looking for banks that are near you so that you do not incur unnecessary fees. Auditing your cell phone bill and options, again, for students, as I mentioned, just check your long distance calls, especially if you're calling home. You want to make sure you take advantage of a lot of the free services to call home, okay? Your student union may also offer perks and discounts. So take a look at what you're spending as an international student. You might be paying for benefits that you're not using. So talk to your student union, talk to your international student office, go into your financial aid office to understand what might be included in your student fees and what you can take advantage of, okay? So bundling services pays big time. Here's an example of where you can save, 15%, almost $20 a month. And again, I'd love if you have any suggestions to please share it with our friends and colleagues on the call as well. Here are some tips on how to save on food. I'm not going to go through each one. I will mention that there are coupon sites like Flip, F-L-I-P-P, where you can find local sales in your area. You can put your postal code, you can shop by category, you can shop by item, joining networking groups for savvy shoppers, sharing money saving tips on food. Using your student meal plan, if it helps you save money, you definitely want to compare that, and setting a budget and sticking to it. I really want to encourage you to set up an online budget through your bank, whichever bank you bank with. In terms of saving money when you shop for groceries, here are some suggestions on things that you can do. I highly recommend, that you take advantage of all of these areas to save money. It makes a big difference. In terms of transportation, again, if financially you're able, to have a car, or maybe, car share, there's different kinds of sites that you can use where you can car share and not have the full cost of a car. And maybe you have the car upon graduation, because there are real costs of ownership like gas, insurance, maintenance. So you really want to make sure you're comparing the costs of owning a car, leasing a car, or doing car sharing. So just be very wary of the cost of a car. I see this also as another area that really impacts students in terms of their budget. So, for example, there are different apps that you can use like Turo and others where you can do car sharing. If you need to buy groceries or you need to do a long trip, you might be able to do some car sharing to save money on your transportation. So as I mentioned about car sharing, there are membership fees. It could be monthly, it could be hourly. You could use some savings on mileage as well. So compare different programs, compare different services, and consider car sharing, services in your area. So here's an example of, some of the suggestions that I just gave to you or shared with you, and how you can save every month on food, transportation, and cell phone bills. For example, if you take a lunch 3 times a week, that can save you $720. Transportation, if you take student transit, especially if you take a look at the student special prices, you could save $864 approximately a year. And the cell phone bill, you can save, if you do pay as you go versus monthly, $360 a year. So it's quite considerable in terms of the savings. One of the things that I learned when I was really young, when I graduated actually university, and I wanted to pay off my student bills, I started reading a lot about, money tips. And one of my favorite authors is David Bach, and he talks about the latte factor, regardless of your income. This is for anyone. You want to make sure that when you are spending, that you're just mindful of, are you buying that high-end coffee, which he calls the latte factor? Or are you making that coffee? So are you spending money on designer coffees? Are you buying things on impulse? Do you need the latest and greatest? You can fill in the blank. So you want to be wary of what emotions, and this is what I talked a little bit about your money mindset. If you have a goal to go on a trip, to go back home, or if you have a goal to buy a car, or if you have a goal to pay off your student loan, you really need to be observant and mindful of how you spend money and what encourages you to spend money on the latte factor, as we would call it. And I'm happy to talk to you anytime about this a little bit more. So questions to ask yourself, what motivates you to buy? Is it advertising? Is it friends? Is it because it's trendy? Is it because I had a rough day? Does the urge to buy that item die the next day? Are you up, looking online and shopping online? Did you buy things in your closet that's now collecting dust? Or do you have things that still have the tags on it? So just questions to ask yourself. If you do want to save money, you do want to invest, maybe you want to buy a home in the future. Maybe you want to have a big ticket item that you rather purchase. Make sure that you have that big ticket item or that goal in front of you. So when you spend or you have the urge to spend, you can make a logical decision, not based on emotions. So these are some tips to reduce impulse buying. I want to get to credit and debt management because I do see that there's a really good question here in the chat. Thank you so much for your questions. I have someone who has a question here that says, is it important to set up credit right away? So thank you very much for that question. I'm going to talk to you about this a little bit now. Just based on timing, I'm hoping to help you understand how to build your credit in Canada, and I will address this question for sure. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of quiz just to see, where we're at in the room. So did you know that federal regulations say that credit card companies have to ask you permission to raise your credit limit? True or false? You can put that in the chat. Let's talk about credit cards, using credit cards wisely. In Canada, I know where I grew up, from, they say that, cash is king. In Canada, I would say if cash is king, then credit is the queen. You need both cash and credit to be successful here, to be able to make investments, to buy big purchases in the future. You do want to make sure you're managing your credit score and you're building your credit in a responsible way in Canada. So the number one thing I would want to encourage you to do is to just be very wise with your credit cards. When you start school, you might get a prepaid card. You might actually get offered cards. You might get in the mail offers through your banks to get a student credit card or other credit cards. Credit cards do offer conveniences for small purchases, online items, and emergencies. However, they do charge interest, full interest, if you don't pay it by the due date. Okay. The charges on your credit card are a loan. It is not free money. You are responsible to pay back your credit card on time. Otherwise, you will see a lot of interest charges that add up very quickly, and the interest charges are much higher than a loan. So please choose the credit card with the features that you want with the lowest cost. Take a look at your credit card bill. Do you know what the interest rate is on your credit card bill? Take a look at the statement. Take a look at the due date and how much interest that you're being charged. You can call your bank and ask for a low fee credit card. So, most credit cards charge you over 23%. However, there are low interest credit cards as low as 9.99% unsecured. So you can definitely manage your credit cards wisely. If you are very, very disciplined, you could charge all of your purchases on a credit card, but you need to make sure that you pay it off before the due date, okay? If you don't pay it off before the due date, you will be charged interest on the entire balance. So it's very important to understand how you're being charged interest and how the credit cards add up very quickly. So I would actually recommend maybe having 1 or 2 credit cards at the most, keeping your credit card limit low until you manage your money and you learn how you manage your money, reading your monthly statements, and avoid cash advances except for emergencies. Because when you take a cash advance on your credit card, you get multiple charges. Usually there's a cash advance fee every time you take cash out of your credit card. And then number 2, there's the interest payment as well. The last thing I just want to mention around credit cards, it will stay on your credit bureau. I've had a client right now that I'm working with to help them buy their home, and he had a prepaid credit card that was only a couple $100 over the limit, and it impacted his credit score and almost prevented him from getting the approval for him to get his first home. So luckily, we were able to work through that together, and I was able to demonstrate and help him build his credit back. But you want to be very careful with your credit cards. So make sure you pay your credit cards on time and that you understand how you're being charged, okay? So here's a credit card quiz for you. Paying your credit card bill just a couple days after the due date won't affect your credit report. True or false? I'm just going to come off of sharing so I can see your answers. Thank you for your comments. So paying your credit card bill just a couple of days after the due date won't affect your credit report. True or false? Great. Exactly. Exactly. You need to pay your credit card on the due date that it is owed, okay? Let's try another one. Last month, your credit card balance was 0. This month, your statement shows that you made a $500 purchase. If you pay off $400 by the due date, you will be charged interest only on the $100 left to pay. Let's see who was listening, true or false. So that means that you made a partial payment on your credit card. You did pay it by the due date, but there's still $100 left to pay. True or false? That answer is actually false. Remember I mentioned if you don't pay off the entire balance, you will be charged interest on the entire amount of the $500 that you purchased. So the only way to avoid interest on a credit card is to make sure that you pay off the entire balance that you charge by the due date. Let's try one more. If you use your credit card to take monthly out as a cash advance, you don't have to pay the interest on the amount you've withdrawn as long as you pay your credit card bill in the full by the due date on your statement. True or false? I'll give you a few minutes. Please put your answers in the chat. So this is not a charge. This is like a cash advance. Like when you put your credit card in the machine and you take a cash advance, or if it's a credit card and you transfer from your credit card to your bank account, that's also called a cash advance. So if you use your credit card to take money out as a cash advance, you do have to pay interest from the day you started with that cash advance, even if you pay the bill in full by the due date. Okay, so cash advances, you get charged interest immediately versus if you made a credit card charge on the credit card, that's when you don't have to pay interest. And sometimes it's 17 days, sometimes it's 21. It depends on your credit card. Okay, so you really want to be careful with your credit cards. Without a good credit history, your bank may charge you higher interest rates on a personal loan for a car or house. Your bank may refuse to give you a loan. You might not be able to get a lease on an apartment. Or is it options 1 and 2 only? Or is it option 5, all of the above? It's actually all of the above. If you misuse your credit and your credit score is not strong, and I'll talk to you about your credit score in a minute, all of these are true. I would also mention that your credit score is very important for some employers. So some employers, especially financial institutions or federally regulated companies, they may ask for your credit bureau and your credit score. Okay, so some tips for you. Please choose a credit card that suits your needs and how you will use that credit card. Make sure you understand the annual fees, the real value of any points or benefits offered. You know, just be careful when you're taking a look at cards that have points. Make sure that you compare them to see if it's really a benefit for yourself. So there are different credit card tools that you can use. The FCAC's credit card comparison tool, I can share that with you. Feel free to connect with me and I'll share that with you just to help you compare different credit cards. So for example, not all travel credit cards are the same. You know, you could actually get free travel if you are smart on your credit cards to choose which credit cards help you get travel points. I've done this quite successfully, but as I mentioned, you have to be very disciplined and understand the costs that you'll be incurring when you charge on your credit cards. So here are some tips. Pay the balance in full each month. Unless it is a cash advance, then you need to pay it off as soon as you can. If you can't pay it in full, as I said, pay as much as you can. Do not make just the minimum payment, okay? Try to make as much as you can off on the credit card. If you always carry a balance on your credit card, if you're not able to pay it off, please call your bank and ask for a low rate card. Even if they charge you a small annual fee, if you calculate it, it will still save you money by paying a small fee and having less interest paid on that credit card. You can also transfer the balance to a line of credit with a lower rate. And you can also just make it a habit and pay it a few days before the due date. So the same way you have a calendar, you know, for your exams and your quizzes, make sure you understand the due dates for your bills. So here's a quick example for you, okay? This is what it takes to pay off a $3,000 credit card at an 18% interest rate. If you only made the minimum payments, take a look at how long it's going to take you to pay that. You're going to pay over $4,000 in interest payments. However, if you made fixed payments of $100 a month, you save over $3,000 in interest, right? Take a look at that. Very big difference. So every dollar that you can pay off on your credit card, it's going to save you money in your pocket. Think of it as buying yourself, lunch, or buying yourself coffee, or throwing out lunch in the garbage if you don't save on your interest. So it's really, really important to pay off your credit cards. So here are some tips on where you can find some money. This is a link to a scholarship feature where you can look for free money and bursaries. Each designated learning institution, as I mentioned, has bursaries, scholarships. They have financial aid. They may even have guidance to help you to apply for international student scholarships as well. Here's an example for Humber. Managing your scholarships and awards. There are lots of other opportunities as well to take a look at loans or line of credits that will help you save money, okay? So try to reach out to your school, your banker, your financial aid office. Reach out to individuals. Don't be shy. They're there to support you, and they don't charge you a fee, especially at the institutions of the universities and colleges, okay? So here are some student loan tips. Borrow only what you need. Make lump sum payments while in school. Consider your summer job or your co-op placement. Set up automatic monthly payments so you don't miss any of your payments. Make extra large or large payments whenever you have money available. And if you have trouble with payments, this is really important. Please, please ask for help. Find out from your loan officer. Talk to the bank. It's better that you talk with them and negotiate and communicate than you wait until it's too late and it impacts your credit score, okay? There are many other types of loans, which we don't have that time to go through today because I have other tips that I'd like to share with you. But if you ever need any help, whether you have questions on a line of credit, maybe saving for your first home, if you have questions on overdraft protection or car loans, feel free to reach out and I'm happy to answer those questions for you or to refer you to our trusted advisors in the community that can help you. I do want to say something though about payday loans. Payday loans, once you start using payday loans, it's very difficult to get out of a payday loan. Sometimes you see, cash advances signs or these companies that will use your check and give you an advance. However, the interest is astronomical. So if you have ever tried to do that or if you've needed that, please try to pay that off as soon as you can and not use it again. It is something that you basically are throwing your money out, and it would be better if you applied for a line of credit or a different type of rotating line to help you manage your cash flow than getting a payday loan, okay? So for example, this gives you an idea of the cost of a payday loan compared to other loans. Do you see the difference? This is just the cost of borrowing $300 for 14 days. Here are some tips for managing loans. You want to shop around, keep within your budget, and pay back more and pay back often. Pay yourself first. Make sure that you have set up an automatic payment to your debts, to the things that you owe, but you also save a little bit for yourself, for your emergency fund. Every time you're getting a payment, put away some in a savings account for yourself. So let's talk about a credit report. A credit report is a summary of your credit history and other financial information. It's the way that you have been paying past debts or past lenders. They send information of your credit borrowing and your history to a company that collects, assesses, and shares data. In Canada, we have two main credit bureaus. We have the TransUnion and we have Equifax. You can get a copy of your credit report for free by ordering it online, by mail, or in person. You can also take a look at your bank. So for example, some of the banks and some credit cards also, they help you by giving you a free credit check, okay? So when you check your credit, it does not reduce your credit score. However, if you apply for a lot of loans or a lot of credit cards, it's going to impact your credit score. So there was an earlier question on should you get credit? And I would say you need to be responsible when you're applying for credit. maybe only apply for one or two lines, maybe one credit card and one line of credit, but you don't want to apply for too many credit cards or too many lines of credit at once because it will reduce your credit score. Okay, so you need to be very careful of how and when you apply for credit because it will impact your credit score. Okay. The credit score, let's talk a little bit more about that. It's your credit worthiness at a specific point in time. So it indicates and represents the lenders that have interacted with you since you have been here in Canada. The scoring gives you a number between 300 and 900. The higher your score, the better. The lower the risk for the bank or the lending institution. So lenders use credit scores to decide whether to lend you money. And they also use this to set the interest rate, how much they're going to charge you in some cases for a loan, line of credit, or mortgage. As I shared, you can access your own credit score and you can use this information to help you improve your credit score for the long term. Okay. I do recommend checking your credit report on a regular basis for free on your own. So as a reminder, if you're checking it yourself for free, it does not impact your score because I want to make sure that you check for identity theft. You want to make sure that your report is accurate and that no one has put something on your credit that is not yours or that you did not authorize. You want to protect your identity, okay? So your credit report and credit score is all of these above. It's free. You will know if the report is accurate, and it's a good way to check for identity theft. So credit report and credit score quiz. If you've applied for several credit cards or other forms of credit within a short period of time, this could have a negative impact on your score. Please use the chat and let me know if this is true or false. Excellent. Great. Thank you, Rawan. Yes, correct. It's true. It's true. Thank you, Grace, for answering. I've got another question here that I see. Thank you so much, Mary. To get a line of credit, do you have to have some kind of collateral or a good credit score? That's a really good question. There are different types of credit lines. If you have collateral like a home, or if you have collateral like a car, then the line of credit interest rate would be less. If you do not have collateral, which means an asset that the bank could put a lien on or hold it as security, is another word for lien, then the interest rate will be higher. Okay. So for example, when you purchase a home, the asset that they would be putting the lien on or the security against would be the home. So if you do not pay back the home, there are certain steps that the bank has to take, but they have your asset, which is your home or your car, that they would be able to sell in the event you don't pay the loan. So that means that they would have a cheaper line of credit or loan rate for you. Okay. So thank you for your questions. Just in light of time, I'm going to go through the credit report. I'm getting some questions here around the credit score. So I'm going to go back to the credit score tips. I'm going to fast forward to the credit score tips. So I have a question here on what is a good credit score. Thank you so much for that question. So your credit score does matter. Anything over 680 is good. Anything over 720 is excellent. Anything below 580 will require alternative lending or they'll charge you higher interest rates. Okay. So it is important to have two active credit accounts in Canada. That could be a combination of a credit card, a line of credit, a loan, an RSP loan, a phone bill, rent. Some landlords do put rent, or you can find out how you can put your rent on your credit. And that's a good way to make sure that you start building a positive credit in Canada. Paying bills on time is really important. So if your score is not as high and you're new to Canada, you will be able to build your score over time. Okay. So paying bills on time will help you boost your score. Making sure that you do not use more than 30% of the limit of your card. So for example, or your loan. If you have a loan that's $1,000, then you want to make sure that you keep the limit or the balance outstanding at just 30% of your limit. So less than $300 would be good if you can. You could apply for a credit limit increase, but again, I don't encourage you to use it. But if you have a current card and you're trying to boost your limit, it can help you overall for your picture of your credit score. Again, avoiding new credit applications close to your mortgage pre-approval or purchase. If you are thinking of buying a home or you want to buy a home in the future, newcomers to Canada are eligible to buy homes. There are certain criteria. Refugees are eligible to purchase a home as well. Again, there are certain criteria for this, and it really is important to speak to your banker or a qualified mortgage agent or broker. Okay, I do want to say a mention around gym memberships. Gyms will put something on your credit bureau if you do not pay your outstanding balance. So please make sure that you pay off any outstanding collections or gym memberships. It will follow you. If you have a collection on your credit bureau, it'll take years to remove or to take that off of your credit bureau. Sometimes it could be 6 or 7 years, depending on how far the collection has gone. Okay. And then finally, I do encourage you to file your taxes on time and clear any government debt that you owe. Okay. Here are some danger signs. Ask yourself, do I use my credit card as a necessity instead of a convenience? Do I use credit or cash advances for my daily living expenses? Do I miss payments or due dates? Do I stay near the credit limit on most of my cards? Do I borrow from one card to pay another? Do I transfer balances every few months just before the introductory offer expires? So if you've said yes to 3 or more of these questions, you really want to reach out to get some assistance to help you manage your cash flow and see what your bank can do to support you to start improving your scenario. Okay. In terms of checking your credit report, make sure that you do not go over your credit limit. It impacts your credit score, and you only use the part of the credit that you have available. And the longer that you build a credit history, the longer you keep older accounts open, if there is no fee, use them from time to time, you will be able to improve your credit score. Okay. So I'm just going to stop here for a minute just to check on the questions. We're at 1:52. Just wanted to see, answer some questions so I see here, thank you so much for your question. Is our credit score based on all our credit cards? Yes, so your credit score will be based on the cumulative amount of all of your credit that you have available, including your overdraft, your phone, could be rent, it could be your line of credit, it could be your mortgage, your car loan. It's everything that has been reported to Equifax and TransUnion. Thank you for your question. Any other questions? Just going through the questions here. Yes. Does checking the credit score impact the score? I've always heard it does. Thank you so much for your question. So as I mentioned, if you check your credit score using the free Equifax or TransUnion, it does not affect your credit score. But if someone else checks your credit score, yes, it reduces the credit score. So you don't want to have too many checks within a short period of time. However, if you have more credit, it will impact your credit score less. The next question is a student loan different than a line of credit? Yes. So here's the difference between a loan and a line of credit. Thank you for these great questions. So a loan is a fixed amount that has been lent to you. So for example, let's just say you were loaned $5,000 and you have to pay $250 every month for that loan. You were loaned a fixed amount of $5,000. When you make payments of the $250 into the loan, you do not get to use back that $250, okay? It is a fixed loan amount. You have to make monthly installments or monthly payments until that loan is paid off. Compared to a line of credit, which is revolving. So if you had a $5,000 line of credit, the limit is approved, but as you make payments, you can reuse the amount as long as it's available. So for example, if you have a $5,000 line of credit and you charged $1,000, you have $4,000 left. You can still use the $4,000, but if you paid back the original 1,000 that you paid minus the interest, means that you will have that full limit available to use again. So the main difference between a line of credit and a line of credit is revolving. As you only get charged when you use the line of credit, but once you make payments, if that limit becomes available again, you can reuse it again. Oh, you're welcome. You're very welcome. Okay. Does OSAP impact credit scores? So that's a really good question. So OSAP, my understanding of OSAP, it is a government loan for individuals who are Canadians. And there are certain criteria around OSAP. It depends on what you're calling OSAP, if it's a government product or maybe it's a student loan by a bank. So you would have to check your credit to see how it was registered. But if it's the government loan, they will charge on your credit score the limit or the loan, especially when it's coming due. If you haven't paid it back, it will be on your credit bureau. I dealt with a client recently who was applying for a mortgage, and her student loan is on her credit bureau. That's a great question. You're welcome. Yes. If you need more guidance, you're welcome, Mary. Great questions. If you need more guidance, as I shared, I'm happy to refer you or to talk with you one-on-one. You can reach out to me. Maybe I'll just share, continue the presentation at this point to share some more resources with you. We are at 1:56. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about savings and investments as well. I wanted to make sure that you are saving for the future. It could be for emergencies. It could be to reduce stress and conflict, to feel more secure and more in control, and also to afford major purchases. Spoke with a client yesterday that had quite a bit of money in her account, but she didn't invest that money and it hasn't grown. And she could have grown that money quite substantially over the last 3 years. So I do encourage you to try to save at least 10 to 15% of your income. If you can, at least try to go to 20% in terms of saving or more if you're not using your funds, and talk to your bank about saving opportunities and saving options for you that link with your risk tolerance. So I do want to encourage you to save for the future. I know that there are many reasons that it's hard to save. I'm not going to go through all of these, but I would say everyone has an opportunity to save, and I'm sure we can help you find money if you make different purchasing options in your life. I've worked with people of all ages that have been able to save substantially. So I do encourage you to talk to your banker or to talk to someone to help you understand how you can save and how to find money. The 4 steps to saving is pay yourself first, make automatic savings, set up an emergency fund, and make a strategy and tactics to grow your savings. These are some ideas on how to make automatic savings for yourself. As I said, any amount, start with any amount. Even if you earn $2,000 a month after tax and you saved 5%, that could be $1,200 a year. So set your own goal, leverage the resources that you have, and try to save 5 to 10% of your take-home pay. I always say 10 to 15 of your gross pay. So this way you've got extra money for other needs that you may have as they arise while you're here in Canada. This is an idea to share with you if you were to invest your money, and this is how compound interest works. I'm happy to talk to you more a little bit about this, but as you can see, your money will grow the same way that your credit card balance would grow on the negative side. You could use your savings and grow your interest on the positive side. And this is an example of Amy and Amanda, who started saving, Amy at 20 and Amanda at 30. You can see how much they put into their RSP fund, how much they saved, and you can see the big difference. So the big news here is if you start saving early, you need less, and your money can grow on a compound interest to help you have a bigger savings when you're a little bit older or when you want to buy those bigger purchases. So if you start small now, it will start to add up because you have time on your hands. That's the good news. You have time on your hands. So compound interest makes a big difference over time. So start saving as soon as you can, okay? I'm going to flip right now to the end because I think that we are running out of time. But I'm going to just mention to you that I do want you to set financial goals for yourself that make sense for you. Thank you so much for joining today. I am going to just ask you, if you don't mind, to say a little bit about your experience today. I'd love to hear you share your thoughts. So please let me know how you would rate this session today. Take a few minutes to let me know if this was useful. If you'd like us to do more on financial literacy, saving and growing your wealth in Canada, that would be wonderful. Thank you guys so much for answering this poll. Please let me know if you have any other questions. You can reach out to me. As I said, I work with Devont. I'm part of the team. I'm also a financial life professional and a mortgage agent with Real Mortgage Associates. So I'm happy to answer your debt and credit questions as well. Thank you guys so much for your feedback. I will stay a couple minutes after. We're actually right at 2. So I'm going to have one more quick question here for you. How did you hear about this event? Wanting to figure out how we can get more students financially literate and how our communication and marketing is working. So I would love to understand from you what we could do differently to reach more students so we can help them build their financial literacy skills. I hope you enjoy the rest of the session today. We have a number of info sessions available for you. We have employers that are doing interviews. We also have group info sessions. So please take advantage, go back onto the Get Hired at Home landing page, and please let us know if you have any other questions. We're here to support you. All the best. Good luck, everyone, and we'll see you again. Bye.